So I'd kind of had this desire to speak to people doing purposeful things around the globe. I've wanted to do it for a while. And this is my third trip to Zimbabwe, I think. And I got chatting to Mark, who's the owner, last time I was here. And when he shared a little bit of his story about how Zimbabwe came to be, I just thought I really want to be able to share this story, because it just completely encompasses, for me, what this journey of, being here is all about. So thank you for talking to me.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
So how did it start, Mark?
For me, it started at 32 years old in the grill by myself. And I had a spiritual moment. I always say I fell ass backwards into spirituality. I just literally went into the all that is, and like a cloudy afternoon, and I changed my life. I just came out of that, and I had to question everything. And as I began to question everything, it turned me back kind of to spirit. It brought me back to thinking in a different way. Mm-hmm. And from there, I was in Chicago. I was living in Chicago. That was in Jamaica, but I was living in Chicago. And I just started to revamp my mind in the way I think, and what were my goals and my objectives, right? Because it starts, purpose then would kind of start, it becomes your goal or your objective in a way, but not driven by necessarily yourself. You're obviously being driven above you in a way, or something giving back in a way, or whatever your purpose is. So, it started like that. And then I just started thinking differently, and at 38 years old, the job that I had was going computerized. I was a commodities trader. So there's going to be this window of opportunity that was opening in my life to like reinvent myself, and start over again and do something different if I wanted to, or I could just retire and, try to, do mundane things, right? And I had asked, of course, now seeking my purpose, I was basically praying, meditating on what should I do? What should I do? Where should I go with this?
You'd been doing that before?
Yes.
Right. So you'd been asking.
Mm-hmm. For a long time, I'd been asking, because once I began to change my mindset, so from 32, now I'm at 38. So for 6 years, everything's changing for me mentally. I'm not seeing the world the same way. I'm not seeing my relationship with people the same way. I mean, when you really talk, people call themselves, your brother or your sister, but I mean, really detailed, realizing that everybody is your brother and your sister, you know what I mean? And going deeply into spirit of who we are, and we're not individuals anymore, you know what I mean? Of who we are collectively and why we're here. These are the fundamental questions that man is always chasing anyway. But I began to catch it from a different perspective. And so I started kind of really, as I began to realize that I was going to get this opportunity to open my life, because I had been married, and so previously, and so was getting divorced, and was just, my life was going to open up. And so I was really earnestly meditating and asking, what is my purpose? And I began to get dreams of thoughts that I had when I was a child. I began to remember what were the things that I thought about when I was a young man, when I was a boy.
So these started to come back to you?
Yes. Started to flood back to me. Don't you remember what you used to think about? Don't you remember this? I was beginning to remember the thoughts that I had as a young boy and the dreams that I had then. And that's
wow.
That's the thread of how it started. And
so the actual decision to come and create this, and I'm going to get some footage in a bit so people can just have a sense of the magnificence of it, and the energy here is the thing that really struck me the first time I came, because it's magic. It's like
it's beyond us, it's beyond my wife and I. It is Zimbabwe is its own energy, and it was what I was asked to do. So I dedicated it back, and it absolutely, I work for Zimbabwe, and it's its own thing, and so I thank you that you pick up on the energy.
Yeah, no, it's felt. So that what was the sort of conception of this place then? How did that come?
And these stories, it's always stories, because these things are never as simple as they seem.
Yeah.
You know what I mean, right? And so I moved to Jamaica, and I get this Rastafarian partner, and I start this other business in the grill. It was going to be kind of the micro version of this. It was going to be natural. It was going to be a place where people could discover real culture. Because oddly enough, you come to Negril, Jamaica, and there's not like a lot of real culture that a tourist or a person could find where you could touch culture, where you can touch spirit of the culture, which manifests in many ways, right? Rastafari, which is, I think, an amazing explosion of spirit that has emanated from Jamaica and crossed the world, right? As well as just there's the slavery aspect and the people. I mean, it's the people. You come to Jamaica and it's the people. But where do they come from? They come from this. Their story is this long history story, and it's beautiful, and it's a struggle, and it's, you know what I mean. And at the same time, they laugh and they smile, and they, you know, there's strength,
dignity.
Ooh, well said. There's a dignity and a strength that is beyond, like, you have to. I don't know. It can only come from here.
Yeah,
you know
and power.
I mean? Yo. Especially, and in the women.
Yes.
Yes, yeah. It's the men pretend that they have it, but it's a matriarchal society, and the women are amazing. So I was going to do that, but and I don't know. He got caught up in ego, and he got all, you know, he started getting very takey over of what we were doing, and to the point where he was trying to kick me out of, you know, my own thing, which was, you know, so that it was something I had to go through. So I eventually, that's when I met my wife, though, which was like, that was the miracle of that, is that I was led to my wife through that. So I eventually had to come out of that and leave that. I had to leave that for 10 years. And he was living there, and I had to leave this this magnificent place that I built, poured my life savings into. I had to leave that. And but my wife, I met my wife, and she took me out, and she said, no, I see what you're trying to do, but this is the way you want to live in Jamaica. She brought me up into the magnificence and the beauty that is, you know, Jamaica, right? Living up in the hills here, waters, rivers, and streams. So my wife said to me one time, she said, you want to live in the abundance and drive for your swim. Because, you know, we all come with this Caribbean vibe that we're going to live by the ocean. But she said, no, live within the abundance and drive for the swim. So she moved me up into the abundance, and we lived so simply, planted a farm. And that is the manifestation that you see now. And it came with a lot of pain, because I continually was asking God, why did you do this to me? Why did you, I mean, if I dedicated myself to you, and if I came here to do the thing that you asked me to do, why have you stripped me of a lot of my money, and why have you, you know what I mean, and made me go through the pain of this thing, you know what I mean? Begging God, why now did I have to go through this pain to do this? And a voice came to me and said, but you're not out of it. Like, you know, you still have some access to your funding, and you can still make it happen, right? And I'm like, well, yeah, but why did you do that? And it's like, no, don't ask the question why, just move on. And from then, it's just been it's been the process of allowing yourself to be led, and that's been the biggest journey for me, is the allowing myself to be led, like 100%, to be carried, to be taken, even to other places that I didn't personally. I mean, I look around and I don't even know how this place was even built. It literally, I would have to look back and say it almost built itself. There wasn't a plan for this. There wasn't it is literally a manifestation outside of my wife and I, in a way, you know.
When you talk about allowing yourself to be led, what do you do? Do you still have moments where you have to remind you, like, how do you, you know, with those moments where because you want to grab for control,
always,
and start to, how do you come back to?
I sense that that moment comes with tension, right? Because at the moment that you decide you want control, like you begin to feel it, whether it's in your belly or in your heart or in your head. There's this, you know, there's this tension that comes in, and I've come to recognize that tension surrounding, because it's all in thoughts, right? You're having this control is really, it's in thoughts. It's not even in. It's not like I'm trying to carry a table. I need somebody else to grab the other end. It's not a physical thing. It's a completely a mental game that you're playing with yourself, and you're. Oh, I wish I could get control. I wish I could do it this way. And then but once you sense that energy, then you realize, and I just have learned to let go, like touching the stove, feeling it's hot and letting go. I've over time, but you still wrestle with it, right? Nobody's never not wrestling with this. We're all wrestling with that. But to recognize the thought process, because it's really, everything is really taking place in the mind. All of these things, even depression is taking place in the mind. It becomes physical, of course, I mean, deeply physical, and can become a bottomless pit, you know what I mean? But it's really, the place for change is in the mind, or the place for recognition of almost everything is basically in the mind. Right, yeah.
And finally, what does purpose mean to you?
That's a deep question. And, yeah, everybody has to take a deep breath. And purpose, but purpose is, I mean, it's the giving away of living just for yourself. By definition, you're going beyond yourself, because purpose would mean you were given these tools you were born in this day now, in this age now, at this time now, with a specific set of, as a man, as a woman, as black, white, yellow, red, green, as with a specific set of talents that are just you. You are so uniquely you. And then you come to realize that that is a tool to be used. The fifth law of Mott, if anybody's ever read that, the 11 Laws of Mott by Rao Nefer, it says God needs you to come into this world. And in that serving of God is the love that you bring to the world and the way that you change the world. And the first time I ever heard that, I get goosebumps now. I burst into tears. I literally ended up sobbing the first time I ever read that, because it was like, we always think, oh, we need God. And of course we do, you know, we're the creator. But imagine that thought, that God needs you to come into the world. Because you could run the miracles and everything like that, but then that would just be boring. We wouldn't have anything to do here. We have our purpose, and it's beyond you, and it's helping other people, and God needs you. God needs your hands, your mind, your feet. You've been given this set of skills. You're to use those skills in the pursuit of your purpose. And the beauty of it is you're always repaid times 1,000, times 1,000,000, right? You're served back. Times 1,000. And I would also say one last thing about that is, I would say also that, like in the Bible, it says, wherever two or more are gathered, there I am. And I would say that that's almost like an alchemic formula, because it suggests that in this dimension, two people have to work together, right? Whenever two are together, so 1 + 1, it equals 2. But then add me in there I am, and that I is times 1,000, right? So when two people come together, when you're working for your purpose, when you're working for somebody else, you're entering this realm's an alchemic formula which says, my power is there with you. You know what I mean? And so therefore, the beauty of your purpose is that anything is possible, and it's way beyond. I didn't do this. I couldn't. I don't know if I could have done this. I don't think I could do this. And even with my wife, God bless her, you know, she's been the energy behind this. But these things, you end up with tapping a formula that's way beyond you.
Beautiful. Thank you, Mark. Thank
you. Oh my God, thank you.